Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around the table with me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. I got a bunch of things we're going to talk about here today, guys. We're going to talk about Joker. Martin Scorsese's made some comments. Disney's not going to back Robert Downey Jr. for an Oscar push. The Richard Jewell trailer, that... and a whole bunch more. A couple of house cleaning items here. For those of you watching live, we normally do the show at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are doing the show today on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard. I keep on wanting to say Pacific Standard Time. Pacific Standard Time. The reason for that is, after I got out of watching Joker last night, I realized my throat was killing me. And it felt like I was swallowing shards of glass, and it kept me up to like 4 in the morning. And I knew I'm not going to be able to do this show. So I'm getting a little bit sick here, guys. So please forgive me if I seem a little bit off today. Not that I don't always seem a little bit off, but please forgive me for that. And we'll just plow ahead and start talking about some stuff anyway. Listen, guys, before we get into our main topics today, I want to talk about this. A little bit about our buddy Bob Iger. So here's the thing. So the other day, we talked about this really nice story that went out there, made everybody's heart feel nice. That Tom Holland, the guy playing Spider-Man now, love Tom Holland. He's also going to be playing Nathan Drake in the upcoming Uncharted movies. Tom Holland was so distraught over Spider-Man not being in Marvel in the MCU anymore, that he decided to get involved and call the heads of Sony and call the heads of Disney and all that kind of stuff and get involved. And everybody said, Tom Holland, save the Spider-Man MCU deal. To which I, myself and Rob said, guys, look, I'm sure it didn't hurt, and I'm sure he did make those calls. But if you think that's what pushed it over the edge, I think you're crazy. Now, before we talk about what Bob Iger just said, I want to mention something here. All of us wanted the same thing. Most of us anyway. We all wanted Disney and Sony to make a deal and to see, at least for a while longer, to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU for at least a while longer. It's what we all wanted. Most of us. It's what most of us wanted. And it's kind of like there's a burning building and a baby still in the building. We all want somebody to come along and save that baby out of the building. We all want that. And so it happens. A certain firefighter got up there and saved the baby, and we're all happy. We all won. Then comes a disagreement. But did the firefighter come down the east hallway, or did he come down the west hallway? Well, what does it matter? We got what we wanted. The baby was saved. Yeah. But did he come down the east hallway, or did he come down the west hallway? Ultimately, it really doesn't matter. What we all wanted was the Sony, Disney, MCU thing to get worked out, at least for now, and get that worked out, and it did. Now, how did it get worked out? Well, we all won, but let's talk about this for a second. Bob Iger, for those of you who might have missed it, forgive me, guys, he got on, it was Jimmy Kimmel the other night, and he's out promoting his book and all that kind of stuff. And they talked about the Tom Holland situation. Now, this comes out, I'm not going to play the video clip, but this comes out of the Hollywood Reporter and their account of it. For those of you who might have missed this, Bob Iger said the following. We had an event called D23, and Tom Holland was there because he's a voice in the new Pixar movie called Onward. I was actually there in the room when he did this. And what Tom Holland, Bob Iger says, he said something. What he said was really touching. Tom Holland, as he was walking off stage, he stopped and said, guys, I know it's been a crazy couple of days because the news about the Spider-Man deal being dead had just broken. I know it's been a crazy couple of days, but I just wanted to say, I love you 3,000. Then he walked off the stage. It was really great. It was a great moment. Anyway, Bob Iger says, he said something, and it was clear that the fans wanted Tom back as Spider-Man. Like, Bob Iger and the guys at Sony, they didn't realize that. What? Wait a minute. The fans like Tom Holland the fans wanted Tom Holland back as Spider-Man in the MCU? We never knew. Anyway, it was clear that the fans wanted Tom back as Spider-Man. Iger continued to explain that after D23's expo, Holland asked for Iger's phone number and email, to which he responded that he'd speak with him. Iger said that after speaking with Holland, he made a couple of phone calls before ultimately calling the head of Sony. He called me and I called them, Iger said, also adding that sometimes companies, when they're negotiating, they forget that there are other folks out there that actually matter. This all comes from the report on the Hollywood Reporter, and of course from Bob Iger's. Now, everybody knows I idolize Bob Iger. He's amazing. Perhaps the best corporate leader in the world is Bob Iger. He's the head of Disney, and I'm a big Disney fan, and all this kind of stuff. So when that happened, a lot of people started tweeting me saying, hey, John, remember how you said you didn't think that Tom Holland, you said Tom Holland, getting involved didn't hurt, but remember how you said that Tom Holland didn't ultimately save everything? Well, look, Bob Iger is saying it was Tom Holland that saved everything. Okay. First of all, isn't it a lovely coincidence that just the day after this story gets leaked about Tom Holland's involvement in it, Bob Iger just happens to be on Kimmel to tell this heartwarming story that makes all of our hearts go aflutter. Oh my, Tom Holland saved Spidey. Isn't that a romantic idea? Isn't that beautiful? Guys, this is a PR spin. It's a PR spin. And I love Bob Iger. And I don't blame him for putting a PR spin. But look, I posted tons of pictures of angry fans from D23. People were mad about the whole Sony-Disney Spider-Man thing falling through. It was a bad look for everybody. And now they've come up with this story. And I'm not saying Tom Holland didn't get involved, and I'm not saying Tom Holland getting involved didn't hurt things at all. I'm not suggesting that in the least. But this is all PR spin to put a big smile on everybody's face and make this seem like such a nice situation. It is a PR spin, guys. Really? Really? Sony and Bob Iger didn't realize until I keep saying Tom Hardy, until Tom Holland got on stage at D23? I didn't know fans actually wanted him back as Spider-Man. I didn't know. This was a revelation to me. The heavens opened up, and then I saw the truth that the fans, he knew, we all knew. And then it just so happens that the day that these stories leak online, then he's got this Kimmel appearance. Guys, it's all PR spin. It's all PR spin. Now, again, going back to the baby in the burning building, all we wanted was the baby to be saved from the building. All we wanted was for Spider-Man to have Sony and Disney do their deal again. We all got what we wanted. And now we're just quibbling over which hallway did the firefighter take. That's all we're quibbling over right now. But to me, to buy in, listen, Bob Iger is playing us all like a fiddle. He's playing this PR thing. It's like, everybody's still kind of raw about that. You know what? Let's spin this story about how Tom Holland came around. Everybody loves Tom Holland. Let's say he saved everything. And we all dance to Bob Iger's fiddle. And I love Bob Iger. It's a great move for him to do PR. But I like in this situation under this. So sitting down last night and getting very well-meaning from a bunch of you guys, very well-meaning messages from you guys saying, hey John, Bob Iger's confirming that Tom Holland did it. What it reminded me of was a couple of years ago. Let me see if I can remember this specifically. When I said something was happening, and then somebody got on stage at Comic-Con to say it wasn't happening, and I got all these people messaging me saying, see, John, you were wrong. Remember this? I think if we believe, if we're the type of people that believe this Bob Iger story, completely at face value, I believe we're also the same people that bought this story. Remember this story? Remember this? Everybody want to remember this? It was only a couple years ago. The story was out there that Ben Affleck was going to be out as Batman. The story was out there. It wasn't just me. The Hollywood Reporter, just days before the Warner Brothers panel at Comic-Con, also confirmed it. The Hollywood Reporter put out their story. No. Ben Affleck is going to be done. He's done as Batman. So then what happened? Ben Affleck got on stage. Warner Brothers denied it brutally. Ben Affleck got on stage, and reading this report from Deadline from 2017, Ben Affleck today shot down a rumor that he will leave his role as Bruce Wayne / Batman when Matt Reeves directs a new solo iteration of the signature DC superhero. Affleck said, "Batman is the coolest effing part of any universe. I am so thrilled to do it. It is effing amazing." After 2 films, Kevin Tsujihara, Sue Kroll, and Toby Emmerich have said, "We want you to be our Batman." And I would be an ape on the ground for Matt Reeves, because Matt Reeves had directed a Planet of the Apes movie. "It's a great time in DC Universe, and you can see why I am so excited to play Batman." Remember that, everybody? Remember that? Ben Affleck and Warner Brothers were playing their fiddle, dude, and we all danced. Oh, Ben Affleck's still going to be Batman. Yeah, we buy it, the PR machine. Remember when, I keep forgetting the name of the dude from Sons of Anarchy, one of my favorite shows. Anyway, remember when that dude, the guy who played Jax on Sons of Anarchy, he was going to be in 50 Shades of Grey? And then they put out this story that, scheduling conflicts. Later we found out it wasn't scheduling conflicts at all. It was much other stuff that got him out of it. Look, all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's great that we got Disney and Sony to make a deal because we got what we all wanted. We're going to get at least a couple more Spider-Man movies in the MCU. And that's what we all wanted. And now for fun, we're jabbing over which hallway did the firefighter come down, the east or the west. And it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is, from my perspective, as much as I love Bob Iger, this is so clearly a PR song and dance to make everybody feel good that it's almost revolting. But it's great. It's also very smart on their part. But again, at the end of the day, I don't care. We all got what we wanted. I just think to believe Bob Iger's story at this point is also to have believed Ben Affleck back when he was swearing up and down that he wasn't going to be leaving as Batman. That's all I'm saying. It's just PR. It's what they should say. It's what they should do, but we just don't have to believe it. But either way, it's not important. We got what we all wanted. That's the bottom line. Anyway, that's my point of view on that. I know many of you have a different point of view, and that's totally cool. Anyway, with that down, see if I can keep getting through this thing. Let's get on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by simply messaging me anytime by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form that you see with your topic or question. Guys, keep it short. Please keep it short. 90 words or less. And then hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get on to the first main topic. And our first main topic today gets sent to us from Bobby Gaylord, who writes, "I just left the movie Joker, and wow, I am drained. I feel like I just saw the Schindler's List of comic book movies. It's so good that I know I'm going to have to see it again. But like many have said in the past, it's a movie that's so good, but hard to watch again and again." It's true. "I think I'll need a week or so before I venture back to that world again. My question is, will fans want to come back and give Joker repeat business?" All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, listen, yesterday I had a chance to I've been looking forward to it all year. I finally had a chance to go and watch Joker. Amongst all the hoopla that the critics were raving about it, winning some awards, and then some critics not liking it, and then there was some fears going around about it, and all the noise. I just wanted to see the damn movie. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure you guys can relate. I just wanted to see the damn movie. I've been so excited about it for so long. Went in, bunch of friends went to go see it. Me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and my buddy Soul, Christian Harloff came along with us. We all went in and we watched Joker last night. And I'll tell you what, I loved it. I thought this was a comic book movie that transcended the genre of comic book movies in a way that only 1 or 2 other comic book movies ever have. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's the top 1 or 2 best comic book movies of all time. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying it transcended the comic book genre in a way that probably only 1 or 2 movies ever have before. It was powerful. It was filled with tension. It is filled with tragedy. It really is, in many ways, not a Shakespearean tragedy, but it is a tragedy. The story is a tragedy. You know, we see in the trailer Arthur Fleck saying, I used to think that my life was a tragedy. Now I realize it's comedy. No, he was right the first time. The story of Arthur Fleck, who becomes Joker in this movie, is a story of a tragedy. And here's one of the things that I loved about it. This movie, Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, the people behind this film, Martin Scorsese, who originally brought this to the studio with Todd Phillips, what they all had the vision of was, let's do a character study of what happens, at least this is how I interpreted it, when a broken character is surrounded by a broken environment. And here's why I think that's brilliant, because we are so used to seeing so many of the movies that we watch and so many of the movies that we love. We are used to seeing them tell this story. The story of a character who is sort of broken, but because they're surrounded or something beautiful comes into their life or something that is right comes into their life, it's able to fix the broken character or help the broken character become whole, you know? That's the normal. And that's great. That's awesome. That's wonderful. But that is the normal kind of approach we're used to seeing, not just in comic book movies, but in movies in general. Our main hero, our main character, there's something broken, whether it's something that's about them or something that they need to do, there's something broken. And if there are events and circumstances and other characters and other forces that come around in their life that are holistic and healing and helps them become whole. That's what we're used to seeing. Maybe to a degree, we're so used to seeing it, that's what we want to see. Joker tells a very different story. Joker tells a story about a man who is broken. Arthur Fleck. I mean, you got that from the trailers. He is a broken man. But what happens when that broken man, instead of being surrounded by support, instead of being surrounded by love, instead of being surrounded by other healthy people, what happens when we get a character like Arthur Fleck who is broken by nature, but then also surrounded and submerged in an equally broken environment? What happens then? And this whole movie plays out as a character study of watching this broken character descend further and further into brokenness, because not only is there nothing around to help him put the pieces together, he's surrounded in an environment that is helping to contribute to him being torn apart into more and more pieces as he becomes more and more fragile and more broken. It is riveting. It is riveting. Now, I'll tell you what. My main concern going into Joker, and I said this a couple of months ago, my main concern going into Joker was that we're going to get a number of people going into this movie, understandably so, thinking, hey, Joker, the comic book villain, woo, this is going to be fun, right? And a lot of people might go in there with that sort of a mindset. And if you go into Joker with that sort of a mindset, you're in for, at best, a shock, at worst, a major letdown, because that's not the movie you're going to get. This is not a fun movie. This is not an exciting movie. This is not an action-packed movie. This is not your traditional run-of-the-mill comic book film. This is a film that says, let's take an iconic comic book character, and if we thrust him into a dark, more grounded sort of world where this broken character was surrounded in a broken environment, let's study what would happen to that guy and how he gets to where he eventually goes. It's a slow burn, but I'm telling you, I was riveted to the screen every single time. Now, look, there are a couple of things that happen in the movie that are a little bit predictable, and we'll go into that more in our spoiler discussion on Sunday, and we're going to do a full spoiler discussion on Sunday afternoon for you guys who are wondering. We'll go into that stuff, but there are a few things that were a little bit predictable. Some things that you thought were predictable that turned out to be big surprises. I won't go into those things in particular here. But from minute one, I was riveted, and one of the key points here is the performance of Joaquin Phoenix. We've all heard Joaquin Phoenix does amazing in this movie, but I'm telling you what, hearing about how amazing Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie and actually sitting in the theater and watching how amazing Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie is night and day difference, because I can't describe to you how insanely good Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie. There's not a practical way to tangibilize it for you and manifest it for you in words. You have to see it. You forget you're looking at Joaquin Phoenix and you just think you're looking at this broken man, Arthur Fleck. It's crazy. Now, I don't know if he's going to win an Academy Award because there are a few performances still to come that who knows, maybe will be better than his. But I will be shocked if he's not at least nominated for Best Actor for this. Again, I can't say he should win because there's a lot of performances I haven't watched yet, but he should be nominated at the very least. At the very least. Now, I'm going to bring this up here too. Some people, inevitably, you always get this. A bunch of people asking me, whose Joker is better, Joaquin Phoenix or Heath Ledger's? My answer to that is simply this, and it's not a cop-out. They're completely different characters. The Joker, as portrayed by Heath Ledger, was a very different character. It's not the same character. It's based on the same comic book character. They are both called Joker and all that kind of stuff, but really, essentially, these are two very different characters. It's not like we had one actor playing Abraham Lincoln and another actor playing Abraham Lincoln, the historical Abraham Lincoln, not the Abraham Lincoln from Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but like the historical Abraham Lincoln, and then you can kind of compare it. Honestly, the Heath Ledger Joker character is such a radically different character that there's no comparing the two. There's no comparing the two. I don't know how you can honestly compare it. So all I'm going to say is that they're both magnificent. So I can't say one is better than the other because they're playing such different characters. The other thing I want to address here is this, is the criticism that some people have been levying against Joker, saying that it kind of glorifies the violence and the brokenness. And on that degree, look, and there is, if you look at the movie a certain way, listen, there are people out there who saying, I was uncomfortable with this movie because it seemed like it was celebrating the violence. And you know what? From a certain point of view, they're not just being hyperly oversensitive. From a certain point of view, you can see why they saw that. You can. Like, if you're going to be honest and go in with an open mind, I think you can honestly say, yeah, I could see how you could look at this movie and interpret it in such a way that it seems like they're glorifying violence. And I can see why you would be sensitive to that. I, however, did not see it that way. Look, there's an old saying that says everybody is the hero of their own story, right? And the same is true of villains. Villains are the heroes of their story. In their mind, they're the heroes. In the villain's mind, at least in a lot of them, they're justified. Anything that they do that is kind of crazy or wrong or evil, they're justified in doing so. Look at Thanos, for example. Thanos is going to wipe out half the universe, but in his mind, he was the hero. He justified it to himself. He thought, I'm saving the universe. No, you're being a genocidal maniac. But in his mind, in his story, he's the hero. Joker, the movie, is told in such a way that it is told from Arthur Fleck's point of view. And being from Arthur Fleck's point of view, it presents it how Arthur Fleck would see it. It's not presenting it, and it's not trying to tell us, this is how you, the audience, should see it. That's not what it's doing. What it's doing is, this is being told from Arthur's point of view. So everything that Arthur does in this movie, we're going to look at it through Arthur's eyes. We're going to look at it through Fleck's point of view. And how, if it seems like the movie is justifying something violent and crazy Fleck does, it's not that the movie's justifying it. It's just that Arthur himself would justify it. He feels justified in doing it, as all villains do. And this movie is being told through the lens of his eyes. And again, I'm not going to poo-poo on anybody who looks at this movie and says, that movie celebrates violence. Because I guess, yeah, if you do look at it in a certain way, it can feel that way. But all I can tell you is my own experience, which was watching it, it never once celebrated violence. And it never once justified anything that Fleck did or Joker did. What it simply did was told us what happened through his perspective, and that's what his perspective would have been. And it created for some riveting storytelling. I'll tell you what, guys, this is a special movie. I don't know that it's my favorite film of the year. It probably still isn't my number one favorite film of the year, but this is a magnificent movie. Such a ballsy thing to do for Warner Brothers to make a movie like this. And thank you, God, that finally one of the comic book movie making studios had the balls to make a standalone movie. This movie's great. Now, not everybody agrees. This movie is not for everybody. Believe that. This movie's not for everybody. A couple of people that I saw it with walked out going, I'm not so sure how much I like that. And I think there's going to be some audience members who walk out the same way. And that's totally cool. This movie is not for everybody. But oh my God, it was for me. It was for me. And I cannot wait to see it again. To the question that was sent in here by Bob about, is it because it is so heavy and it is so intense and it is violent in not just in what happens on screen, but in whole tone and everything like that. Is it a movie that people are going to go back and flock to see it again and again and again and again? I think there are some of us like me that will be going to see Joker 3 or 4 times in the theaters, but I also think there's going to be a lot of people who like the film but may not go see it 2 or 3 times. I think there are going to be a good number of people that really appreciate this movie, but it's like, that's a heavy downer of a movie, man. I don't know if I can sit through that. Kind of like me with Schindler's List. Schindler's List, one of the greatest films of all time. I can't watch it again. I just can't. It just rips my soul apart. I just can't. And this, my wife, Anne, she came out of it and she said, it's like watching a movie of 2 hours of a guy becoming more and more addicted to drugs. It's told incredibly well, but it's hard to watch at times. And I think that's true, which I also think speaks to the brilliance of the film. Again, look, all film is subjective. A bunch of people are going to like this movie. A bunch of people are not. All I can tell you is my personal experience with it. I thought Joker frickin' ruled. I thought this movie ruled. And kudos to I didn't know that Hollywood was capable of making a movie like that, a comic book movie like that. It's just fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. I love it. And again, don't be surprised if you watch it and you don't like it. I don't think it's for everybody. I'm just telling you, for me, myself, and I, we liked it very, very much. Anyway, I'm sure we'll talk more about Joker as we get into the live questions, but we need to get on to main topic number 2. Speaking of Joker, of course, Martin Scorsese was originally brought this to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips, and he's the one who got the ball rolling and got the Joker all moving. Martin Scorsese is now back in the news again, everybody. Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today is sent in to us from Edwin M., who writes, Hey, John, I love Martin Scorsese, who doesn't? And I can't wait to see The Irishman. Just wondering, though, if you saw his comments about comic book movies not being real movies or cinema. Do you think he has a point, or is he just being jealous? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Edwin. Well, first of all, let's be clear. Martin Scorsese is jealous of no one. Let's just be clear about that. Martin Scorsese is jealous of no man. Martin Scorsese is a god. That said, he did say something that got a lot of people's attention yesterday. For those of you who haven't heard about this, Martin Scorsese was being interviewed. This comes from an article in Empire. Martin Scorsese was asked about Marvel films. And of course, he's got The Irishman coming out. Ironically, he's the guy who brought Joker to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips in the first place. But he said the following regarding Marvel films. I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema, Scorsese told Empire. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. Let me read what Scorsese said here again, because I want us to be instead of just flying off the handle and being knee-jerk reactionists, let's pause, go through his words again, and really consider what it is he's saying here, guys. Asked about Marvel films, I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema, Scorsese told Empire. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to other human beings. All right. Predictably enough, this got a lot of people reacting yesterday, including James Gunn. who I follow on social media. I don't follow many people on social media. I follow James Gunn on social media. And Gunn said, I'm paraphrasing James Gunn, but Gunn said, Martin is one of my top 5 favorite directors of all time. I have grown up idolizing his movies, and basically I find it a little hurtful that he won't even give my movies a chance. That's an understandable sentiment. That's an understandable sentiment from a filmmaker who idolizes, as all filmmakers do, Martin Scorsese. Because that can be kind of hurtful to hear that. Let me say something very, very unpopular. And you guys know my job here is not to say things that are popular and not to say things that you automatically agree with. So let me say something that's going to be unpopular, and then do me the privilege of hearing me out as I explain what I mean, okay? To a degree, and let me emphasize that, to a degree, I think Martin Scorsese has a point. To a degree, I think Martin Scorsese has a point. Now, look, you guys know that I am a comic book movie fanatic. I don't care if it's DC. I don't care if it's Marvel. I am just a comic book movie fanatic. I love this stuff. I mean, even when they're bad, I watch them. I'll call them bad, but I'll still watch it because I'm a sucker for this stuff. Everybody knows Robert Meyer Burnett is he's a walking comic book encyclopedia. He's a walking film historian, and he loves his comic book movies. Absolutely. But one of the things that both Rob and I have said over the years is that, to many degrees, comic book movies are a little bit of a separate thing. There are great comic book movies, but they're great for comic book movies. And then we've had a few comic book movies. I only believe 3 comic book movies have ever truly transcended the genre of comic book movies to becoming real cinema. And those 3 films, in no particular order, to me, and I'm not saying these are the 3 best, but I think these are the 3 that best exemplify, that have gone beyond just being comic book movies to being something truly special. I believe that is The Dark Knight, I believe that is Logan, and I believe that's The Joker, now that I've just seen Joker. These are 3 films that seem to almost forget at times that they are comic book movies and really set aside the art of filmmaking and making really good cinema. And so, to a degree, I can see what Martin Scorsese is saying. To a degree. It's like this. I was a little flabbergasted. I did not think last year that Black Panther deserved a Best Picture nomination. Hell, I didn't even think Black Panther was the number 1 or the number 2 best comic book movie of the year. I thought Black Panther was the 3rd best comic book movie of the year it got nominated for Best Picture. I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best one. I thought Avengers Infinity War was the 2nd best one. And then Black Panther. And a lot of people want to see Infinity War nominated. A lot of people saying they want to see Endgame nominated. Here's the thing. I think when we don't watch a lot of other cinema, when we don't watch a lot of other types of movies, and we really just kind of stay within our appetite zone of action, sci-fi, comic book movies, things like that, then we start to gauge things by a different level a little bit. When there's a great performance in a comic book movie, we automatically think that's one of the great performances of the year, when in reality, there's probably about 20 or 30 other performances outside of those genres that were far superior, but by our measurement and by our grading level, it was amazing. We think it deserves an Oscar. I think the Robert Downey Jr. thing is a great example of that, which we'll talk about the Robert Downey Jr. thing here in just a couple of minutes. Where I think Martin Scorsese is off base, this is the part where I think Scorsese's off base. And I would challenge him on this. I would say this to him. Is, you know what, Martin, let's look at the first sentence where he says, I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. Okay, time out for a second, Martin. And I believe me, I am genuflecting as I speak to Martin Scorsese. Believe me, I am genuflecting as I speak. So with all due respect, great one. When you say you tried, what do you mean you tried? What, you tried 1? You tried 2? Do you think because you tried 1 or 2, that becomes reflective of what all the movies in that genre are? You just said you don't see them. Look, I'm cool if a filmmaker, again, genuflect, like Martin Scorsese wants to say, I don't watch comic book movies. That's cool. Not all movies are for everybody. If he doesn't want to watch comic book movies, okay, that's fine. We all have, some people don't want to watch horror. Some people don't, that doesn't mean they're haters. It just means, hey, horror's not for them, so they don't like to watch horror. Some people don't like to watch rom-coms. It's not that I don't believe in love. It's just that those types of movies aren't for me. No problem. For Martin Scorsese to say, hey, I don't watch comic book movies. That's okay. No harm, no foul. Those movies aren't for you. They don't do it for you. No big deal. All fair. All fair. However, great one. If you're going to first admit that you don't even watch them, how can you then move forward and speak in terms of criticism of them? You just said you don't watch them. Now, I agree to a point that, look, comic book movies still have a long way to go to get to real, the highest echelon of cinematic filmmaking. I believe comic book movies, even though it's my favorite genre, they still have a long way to go. They're getting there, though. They're getting closer than they ever have before. But, Martin, don't criticize a genre that you don't even watch the movies. You shouldn't come out and say, these comic book movies, they're not cinema. If you haven't watched Logan, don't tell me these movies aren't cinema. If you haven't watched The Dark Knight, don't tell me these movies aren't cinema. If you haven't seen Joker, well, I'm sure he saw Joker. He's the one who brought Joker to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips. Okay, so he's probably seen Joker, but it's probably part of the reason why Joker is so different. But what I'm saying is, I think there is a valid acorn of truth in what Martin Scorsese said, but I almost feel like the great one almost nullifies his own point by admitting, I don't even watch these movies. Now let me tell you what's wrong with them. Wait a minute. How can you tell me what's wrong with these movies, Martin? Oh, great one. If you don't watch them, how can you say that? So how can I listen to you? How can I take you seriously about what your comments are? And how can I not look at your comments without a little bit of suspicion when you come right out of the gate with this big blanket statement that says, I don't even watch these things? Well, then how am I supposed to listen to anything you say about it afterwards? How is that fair? Now, look, I will give the great one, and he is the great one. I will give the great one, cut the great one some slack here because, he was asked a question. He said an answer. Maybe if he was sitting down writing out his answer and organizing his thoughts, maybe it would have came out differently. And maybe that's not quite exactly how he meant it to come across. I'll give him that benefit of the doubt for now. But I believe instead of just being knee-jerk reactionist, I'm actually going to say, you know what? What he's saying, there is a little bit of truth to that. I think there's a little bit of truth to that. But I also think there are exceptions, and I think this is a genre that's going, and I think if you're going to criticize the genre and downtrot it and say it's not even real cinema, I'm sorry, great one, but you are not qualified to give that opinion if you don't even watch the damn movies. You're not qualified to give that opinion. You're not. Watch the movies, and if you think they're the biggest bags of shit in the world, say they're the biggest bags of shit in the world, and you're entitled to that opinion, and you're qualified to give your opinion because you've watched them. But if you don't watch them, don't say that. Say, I don't watch these things because they're not for me. I don't watch these things because I personally like more real world drama. Say that. That's fair. But don't criticize someone after you just said you don't even watch it or give it a chance. Because I think, great one, you might be surprised to see that little by little, this little genre is not just a giant box office force. This little genre is actually getting better and better and better quality-wise to the point that you might even call it cinema. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. What do you guys think about Martin Scorsese's thoughts here? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's now move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today comes to us from Michael O'Hearn, who writes, I read earlier today that Disney has officially started their Oscar push, and it appears that Robert Downey Jr. is not being considered for a Best Actor nod. There's been a lot of discussion and discourse about whether Robert Downey Jr. should get a nod. Personally, I love Robert Downey Jr., but I don't think this would be a role he would be nominated for. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And we were just talking about that a second ago. You know, the topic of Robert Downey Jr. with the Oscars getting closer has come up a few times. And each time I've given my opinion. And your opinion may be different than mine, but no, I don't believe, as much as I like Endgame, I don't believe Robert Downey Jr., and he was great in the movie, he was. I don't think Robert Downey Jr. deserves an Academy Award nomination for that performance. I just don't. I think when I look at a number of the other films that I've seen this year and the performances in those films, there's already 6 or 7 or 8 that I would put above Robert on this point. And there's still a bunch of the films I haven't seen yet. As I was kind of mentioning in the previous thing, yeah, for a comic book movie, his performance was maybe the second or third best performance I've ever seen in a comic book movie. But it's for a comic book movie. I haven't really seen that yet. I don't think it was Heath Ledger, level. I don't think it was a number of other things. I don't see him being nominated for that. I just don't think it was on that level. I think it was great for that movie. I think it was perfect for the film, but no, I don't believe it was Oscar worthy. That's just my opinion. You may have a different one, and that's totally cool. I'm not really shocked that Disney wouldn't push and promote him, but there's a couple of things I want to say we got to keep in mind. Number one, just because they haven't come out of the gate and started the push for Robert Downey Jr. yet, doesn't mean they won't do that a little bit down the line. We may get into November and stuff like that, and then they may start doing a push for Robert Downey Jr. I'm not saying they will. All I'm saying is that just because there's no mention of it yet, it is just September, by the way. Well, it's October now. I'm sorry about that. It is October, but we're still November, December, January. We're still 4 months away from the Oscars, 4+ months away from the Oscars. So just because they haven't started a push or done any official yet doesn't mean they won't. Okay. So I think that's very, very key to keep in mind. But I also have a feeling that maybe Disney realizes that RDJ isn't going to get that nomination. And why draw attention to him not getting the nomination by doing a push? If that sounds confusing, let me explain. Let's say Forky has dreams of winning a beauty pageant. Yay! He wants to win a beauty pageant so bad. Now, he comes to me and says, "Hey, John, can you do a marketing campaign for me for eligibility for a beauty pageant?" I could say yes. Sure, Forky. I'll put out a little bit of money. I'll advertise, "Hey, everybody, Forky for beauty pageant, Forky for beauty pageant." Even though deep down I know he's not going to get nominated for winning the beauty pageant. If I draw a lot of attention to wanting him to get nominated for a beauty pageant, what's going to happen is it might actually be a little bit embarrassing when I put all that energy and effort into it and he doesn't get the beauty pageant spot. Whereas maybe if I had just not done the push and he doesn't get the beauty pageant nomination, there's no embarrassment about it. There's no little bit of egg in your face because we never brought attention to it. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that could be one of the things, maybe, I guess. Maybe Disney just realizes, look, Robert will never get that nomination, so why draw attention to him not getting the nomination by doing an ad campaign for him now? That's possible. It's also possible they're just planning to ramp something up for him a little bit later, so we'll have to wait and see. Question is for you guys. Do you think Robert Downey Jr. should get nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in Endgame? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our final main topic today. And our final main topic today gets sent in to us from Maxie S., who writes, "Hi, JC and crew. The trailer for Clint Eastwood's Richard Jewell just dropped. This was yesterday. A stellar cast, relevant subject matter. This one looks like a probable Oscar contender to me. Do you agree?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in. And look, I was interested in Richard Jewell for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's Clint Eastwood directing it. Whenever Clint Eastwood, I'm not saying every movie Clint Eastwood directs is gold. Obviously, that's not the case. But so many of them are that when Clint Eastwood's directing something, you instantly have my attention. And I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way. Secondly, the cast is incredible. You're talking about Sam Rockwell, Olivia Wilde, John Hamm, Kathy Bates, and by the way, Paul Walker Hauser in the lead. Now, if you recognize this dude in the lead playing Richard, he was in I, Tonya with Margot Robbie. He stole the show in I, Tonya with Margot Robbie. And he was also in Black Klansman. He was, again, a total scene stealer in Black Klansman. And this dude is starting to put together, this Paul Walter Hauser is putting together a real nice little resume for himself. So that looks great. Also, it's a true story. And I'm a sucker for these true stories, man. I'm a sucker for these true story movies. And it's a cautionary tale about it's a tragedy, too, of what happened to this guy. Anyway, trailer for this drops yesterday. It's fantastic. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about it other than the trailer communicated the overwhelming sense of national drama. You have a perfect scapegoat, and you have the behind-the-scenes drama of the fight to determine, was this guy the one who put the bomb there or not? So there's a little bit of mystery. There's a little bit of whodunit. There's a little bit of thriller. You tap in there some amazing performers. You tap in there one of the all-time great directors. You tap on top of that one of the real-life true stories that riveted the attention of a nation. I think you got a lot of things adding up here to a big win. I thought the trailer was fantastic. Now, is it Oscar-worthy? I mean, I don't know. Man, there are a lot of terrible movies that put out trailers that make them look like they're Oscar contenders. And so, I can't tell that from a trailer at this point. But I'll do say this. It looks good to me, and I can't wait to see it. Anyway, guys, question is, have you had a chance to see the Richard Jewell trailer? If so, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down, we're now going to go on and take some live questions from y'all. You guys have been sending in questions all day, actually, because the show's starting late. But if you will indulge me, I need to rest my voice for a couple of minutes here, stretch my legs, go refill my drink. So I'm going to take a couple minute break here, guys, and then we'll be right back taking your live questions. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you for your patience as I went and took a little bit of a break there. Hey, guys, I'm gonna let you know. I'm not totally sure how long I'm gonna be able to go today because my throat's in rough shape. I'm coming down with it. But listen, let's start getting to the live questions. There's a few I need to read off screen here, and then we'll get to the ones on screen. Benny95 writes, is The Joker a movie I can take my parents to? They enjoy content like Mindhunter minus the creepiness, but appreciate good story and character depth. Yes. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in Joker that is not something that you'd feel completely uncomfortable sitting around your parents, unless you're like your parents only normally watch G-rated movies. If your parents only watch G-rated movies, and I know there's some parents that do, then maybe that's not the right film for them. But otherwise, I think you're safe watching it with them. Otto000 writes, Far From Home Easter egg. The movies playing on Peter's flight are Finding Wakanda, I saw that one. Hunting Hydra, I might have missed that one. Nova with Dr. Selvig, of course that's the character that's suddenly missing now from Thor. And The Snap, a Paul Greengrass film. I don't think I saw that. That's hilarious. I would love to get a screen capture of that. The Snap, a film by Paul Greengrass. That sounds hilarious. All right, Mr. 47 writes, I just got out of The Joker. Just wow. Absolutely brilliant portrayal of the character. No punches pulled. Just a spine-chilling tale of a man who loses it. And it goes, to me, man, that's the thing. It goes well beyond just a man losing it. You know, some people compare it to falling down, but I think it goes so much deeper than that. It's brokenness surrounded by brokenness, and what does that result in? It results in chaos, and I just think the film played it out beautifully. We'll talk about more in depth and on detail when we do a spoiler discussion on Sunday. All right. Nathan Oswald writes, birthdays today. Dakota Johnson is 30. Really? Dakota Johnson's 30. Neat. Melissa Benoist is 31. Rachel Lee Cook is 40. Alicia Silverstone is 43. Batgirl is 43. Liev Schreiber is 52. That dude still looks like he's like 40. Liev Schreiber still looks like he's a big, rough 40. Christoph Waltz is 63, and Susan Sarandon, speaking of Liev Schreiber, she is turning 73 years old. All right, thanks a lot for sending those birthdays, Nathan. Massive Jada writes, come on, Rob, why so serious? Yeah, Rob, I saw Batman. I saw Joker with Rob, and Rob wasn't as thrilled with the movie as I was. I know me and Harloff, it was a good mix. Me, Harloff, and I think my buddy Soul loved it. My friend Tom, Erin's husband, Erin Cummings, her husband Tom came along with us. He's an actor himself. You've seen him in a bunch of things. He liked it. So me, Harloff, and Soul loved it. Tom and Ann liked it, but also had some issues with it. But Rob, yeah, he wasn't thrilled with it, to be honest. And I can see where it's coming from. That's why I say, look, this movie's not going to be for everyone. But hey, just because a bunch of other people are liking it doesn't mean Rob should turn off his brain and not make up his own mind about whether something he liked or not, right? So get him some slack on that. All right, let's see here. Now let's go over to the questions I can bring up here on screen. All right, Rohit Mukundan writes, one of two. I enjoyed Joker. A little disappointed that it was exactly what I thought it would be. Saw all the twists and turns coming a mile away. Not all of them. Not all of them. Anyway, felt like there were a couple that were very predictable. I mean, I said that in my review as well. There are a couple that are very, very predictable. No doubt about that. Felt like the most obvious thing you could do with the Joker movie. I don't know about that. Still, it was executed well. The performances and direction were great. I don't know, dude. I think if you're talking about predictable things you could do with the Joker movie, I think there's a hell of a lot of other directions that you could have gone that I would have called predictable. But predictability is all in the eye of the beholder, right? And so if certain things are predictable to you, then they were predictable to you. There you go. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Either Audrey writes, one of two. Weekly anime recommendation, genre, drama, supernatural. Sankara, let's see. Chihiro loves zombies and attempts Sankaria. Chihiro loves zombies and attempts to resurrect his dead cat and meets a girl who ran off from home to escape her controlling family. She attempts suicide by drinking the zombie potion. That sounds a little bit, not exactly, there are some differences. That sounds a little bit like Warm Bodies. Remember that with Holt, who plays Beast in the new X-Men movies? They did that that movie was a real nice little movie, by the way, Warm Bodies. That sounds a little bit like that. That could be interesting to see. All right, thanks for the recommendation, either, Audrey. All right, Amir B writes, damn, I love Joker. Magnificent on so many levels. I loved it too. I just thought it was great. I mean, look, it's not perfect. Again, there's some predictability issues. A couple of things in the film I will say were a little bit on the nose, but overall, to me, it was a fantastic experience. Kenneth Colton writes, I'm sure you're going to hear this a lot, John. Joker was brilliant in so many ways. Phoenix gave it the performance of a lifetime. You know, I got into it a little bit at a very friendly debate last night about whether The Master was Joaquin Phoenix's best performance or this. I think this is his best performance ever. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't take away from The Master. That doesn't take away from Her. That doesn't take away from any of his other brilliant performances. But I honestly thought last night watching Joker, we were seeing Joaquin Phoenix at the height of his powers. Again, that's going to be a subjective opinion as well, but that's how I felt about it. I just thought we were watching a world-class actor at the height of his powers right now. Anyway, random person, I like that name, writes, John, do you like poutine? I like good poutine. As a Canuck, you must love it. Yeah, here's the thing. There are a number of places around LA, and I applaud them for the effort, that tries serving poutine. But they don't get what poutine is. Hell, I think there's even parts of Canada that don't truly get poutine. But I love poutine. For those of you who don't know what poutine is basically French fries with a bunch of melting cheese curds covered in gravy. Oh, God, my mouth is watering and my dick's getting just a little bit hard even thinking about it. Poutine done right is a magnificent miracle of nature. As a matter of fact, poutine is so popular amongst Canadians that at the big movie theater chain in Canada, which is Cineplex, at the concession stand, you can actually get poutine at the concession stand. I'm not kidding. That was, and by the way, guys, I'm just going to keep half an eye on the chat board. I'm just going to give you a warning. If you do put in spoilers, I'm banning you from the channel. I'm not even just going to remove your comment. I'm just going to ban you from the channel. And I can't keep a close eye on it, so I may miss it. But guys, please don't be a dick. Don't be a dick and spoil things for other people. Anyway, so let's move on. Okay. Let's see here. I love poutine. Tristan Larson writes, a little disappointed with Joker. It's okay. And you know what, Larson, you're not going to be the only one that feels that way. This is a movie that is not for everybody. And I don't think there's anything wrong with not liking it. I could see why some people won't. And if it didn't work for you on that level, that's perfectly fine. I can only say that it did work for me on that level. Matthew Grant writes, was that Joker and the lady next to me snuck in a big bottle of Tabasco and was dumping so much on her food it was hard to breathe because of the fumes. Oh, dude, Matthew. Oh, God. The smell of Tabasco or hot sauce in general. Hot sauce in general is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult for me to smell. Like, even when we go to like Buffalo Wild Wings or Hooters or something like that, if I'm with one of my buddies who gets some like the suicide level like sauce on their wings, I almost got to move to another table because I'm very, very, and I can't eat spicy food at all. Even if I can't even order mild wings. I'm not kidding. When I order wings, I got to get the straight sweet barbecue or honey garlic. That's it. I can't even eat mild. I find it too spicy. And whenever I say that, my Italian father looks at me with shame. But it's true. I just can't do it. When somebody's, that sauce smell just does not work for me, dude. All right, Brendan Mispaw writes, I've been having a really terrible couple of weeks, John. I just needed to hear positive things. Tell me Joker's good and that the MCU is going to get better and Spider-Man is going to be okay. Make it okay, John. Well, first of all, dude, I'm sorry you've had a crappy couple of weeks. It always sucks when you do, and we all go through them sometimes. I feel like I'm at the beginning of one of those stages. Anyway, hey, man, in my opinion, you may not like it, but I think Joker's great. The MCU is going to be just fine, and Spider-Man's going to be okay, whether he's in the MCU long-term or not. Spider-Man's going to be just okay. So don't worry, Brendan. The world's going to be good. And you got the film fan community here to help you through the struggling times. So thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts, man. And everything will be okay. All right. Taki75 writes, Joker, good movie, but not the masterpiece some over-enthusiastic critics try to sell. Phoenix art direction are excellent. Everything else is just okay. I disagree. I think the pacing, the storytelling, the narrative, the metaphysical aspect of it as well, the way it looks at the world and life, I thought it was profound, but there are going to be other people that find it different. And that's fine too. It's funny. Everybody, I'm reading these weird headlines, man. I'm reading these weird headlines of, critics are trying to tell you that Joker's not any good. Really? Because last time I checked, the majority of the critics like the film. As a matter of fact, the majority of the critics are raving about it. But like any other film, not everybody's going to like it. So some people are watching it and not liking it. There are some critics that don't like it. There are some people on this very channel right now that are writing and saying, hey, it didn't really work for me either. It's all fair. It's all fair. All right. Kick It to the King writes, I'm not sure if you've seen Haunting of Hill House. I've only seen a couple of episodes. Man, that bent neck lady origin reveal at the end of episode 5. WTF, scary as hell. What is your great fear? Well, obviously, I can't comment on the Haunting of Hill House. I haven't watched it all the way through. My biggest phobia is heights. That's my big phobia, is heights. And I don't know when that happened. I, up to 18, 19, I had never had any issues with heights. And then all of a sudden, somewhere along the way, I realized, oh yeah, I'm afraid of heights now. When did that happen? I'm not sure. But I have a fear of heights. Yeah, it's kind of rough. Let's see here. That was Kick It to the King. Let's move down to Just Too Tasty Good writes. Thoughts on Joel Schumacher's Batman films, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. What did you think of the acting casting in his films? I mean, look, they are what they are. They're not great. I liked Val Kilmer as Batman. I liked, the casting of Jim Carrey as Riddler. How can you go wrong casting Tommy Lee Jones for everything, except that they made the Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face and the Jim Carrey Riddler the exact same character in many ways? Other than that, basically try to forget about them. Just Too Tasty Good. I basically try to forget about them. All right, Alvin Elmore writes, nobody cared who Anakin's father was because the movie never presented it as something important. But Rey's arc being filled with flashbacks and teases about her parents led to an anticlimactic answer. Oh, I disagree, Alvin. I 100% disagree. From the beginning, I said, the first time I watched The Force Awakens, I came out going, well, that movie made it very clear that Rey's parents are nobody of consequence. The movie made it crystal clear, in my opinion. When I was sitting there watching the movie myself, I went, oh, well, it's obvious her parents aren't anybody. To me, the looking in Rey's flashbacks and all that kind of stuff, that was never intended, from my point of view, to draw attention to her parentage. It was to draw attention to her issues. Her desperate need for feeling belonging. Her sense of being alone in the world and the universe. See, to me, all that stuff that you're talking about, Alvin, from my perspective, was to emphasize that and to let us get to know her and her fears and her apprehensions and her inhibitions and stuff like that. We were getting a glimpse into her and what makes her who she is. It wasn't about teasing her parents. To me, the movie made it very clear her parents weren't anybody. And that was always the plan. And so when they revealed it, to me it was like, well, yeah, no, duh. That's what we've been saying this whole time. I've been saying this for 2 years that her parents were nobody because The Force Awakens made it clear that her parents were nobody. To me, other people like yourself interpret it in a different way. And that's the beauty of film. We all interpret different scenes and different movies in different ways. And that's great. But yeah, I think we were looking at the wrong things. Those flashbacks wasn't about growing mystery of her parents. It was about giving us insight into who she was, what motivates her, why she feels a desire to belong to a family or to belong to anything. All those flashbacks all built that up to me, not mystery of the parents. Who her parents were was unimportant. It was totally unimportant. And again, I can only speak for myself that I thought the movie made that very clear. But that's just me, and you're not alone, Alvin. There are a lot of people who feel the same way you do about that, by the way. So you ain't alone in that. There's many, many people felt that way. I was just on the other side of the aisle on that. That was just me, though. All right. Patrick Conway writes, real cinema is connecting and resonating with the audience, whether the humor, action, heart, or drama, and Marvel does that, in my opinion, so you can't disregard them. Well, Patrick, I would say this. I would say I'm not going to try to lecture Martin Scorsese about what cinema is. I'm not going to get into an argument with Martin Scorsese about his definition about what cinema is. He is far more qualified to make that assessment than I am. So there's that. My standing criticism of what Martin Scorsese said was, I get what he's saying. It's just that he undermines everything he said by coming out and just saying, I don't even watch these movies. Well, then how can you say that, Martin? How can you say that? Look, is a lot of comic book movies just fun spectacle? Yes. And I wouldn't want it any other way. A lot of comic book movies, even some of our favorites, are just big, fun spectacle. And if you can dash in a few other really good elements here and there too, great. And to a degree, that's wonderful. That's great. I mean, I have a lot of fun at those movies. You have a lot of fun at those movies. That's great. But this is a genre that has been evolving even over just the last 10 years. It's not even over the last 40 years. I mean, even just in the last 10 years, comic book movies as a whole have been evolving and getting better and stretching beyond that, as Robert would normally put it, transcending their own genre and starting to incorporate the better filmmaking techniques, the better filmmaking nuances of better movie making are being brought into the comic book movie genre now. Slowly, gradually, still has a way to go, but it's getting there. And if Martin Scorsese had given all these films a chance and still said, I don't think these are any good, okay, then that's your opinion and that's fine. You're entitled to it. When the great one who I genuflect before makes a statement like that, and we know he hasn't even watched these movies, I'm just like, why are you saying that when you haven't even seen them? And I think, Lord Scorsese, if you did bother to watch a couple of these things, you might see that they're getting there. They are getting there. They're getting better, man. They're getting better. They're not just spectacle anymore. Are most of them still mainly spectacle? Yes. Infinity War and Endgame is like whole heap loads of spectacle. And that's great. But I think if you look closely, Martin, you're going to see a lot of those other elements that have been devoid of a lot of comic book films over the years. They're starting to be incorporated in if you would give them a chance. Give them a chance. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. Anyway. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, my top 5 horror films. Number 1, Alien. Number 2, Nosferatu. Ooh, nice one. Number 3, Dawn of the Dead, the 1978 version, of course. Number 4, Ringu. For those of you who don't know what that is not a horror movie about Italian pasta. Ringu is actually the original Asian version of The Ring, which is, by the way, way scarier. Number 5, The Thing, 1982. That's a great one. Of course, that one's a remake as well. So anyway, well done, Timbula the Spider Monkey. Tom Walters writes, hey crew, I just rewatched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it's my favorite film of the franchise. What's your favorite one? Thanks. Oh God, I'll tell you what, I can't even remember what order. I wish they had just called the damn things Planet of the Apes 1, 2, and 3. My favorite one is the second one. That's my favorite of the second one. The third one I thought was the worst. War for the Planet of the Apes, I thought, to me, I was very, very let down by it. And by the way, a massively misleading marketing campaign. The whole marketing campaign for War of the Planet of the Apes was making you think that we're going to go into this movie and see the war between humans and apes, and that never happens. And that was a letdown. And look, I don't think the movie was bad. I don't think War for the Planet of the Apes was bad, but I just thought it was easily the weakest of the 3. I thought the second one was the best. And I can't remember if that was the same one you liked or not, but that's the one I like the best. All right, guys, listen. I'm going to have to cut today's show a little bit shorter than normal. my voice is just not going to manage it and not going to hack it. I've got to go back to bed, I think. So I'm going to take all the questions that you guys sent in here today, and my apologies for the inconvenience. Look, I feel bad. You guys send in these questions. You're supporting the channel. I want to answer all of them, or at least as many of them as I can on the live show itself. But I just don't have it in me right now, and I'm really, really sorry about that. I feel awful about it, but I will get to them in the very next companion video, whether that'll be later tonight, probably not, because I'm out of it. Maybe it'll be tomorrow, maybe it'll be Sunday, but the very next companion video, I will address all the rest of the questions. Pardon me. I will get to all of the rest of the questions, and they will be answered in the companion video. And again, I apologize for the inconvenience, guys, but I will get to them just as fast as I can. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here, guys, on this Friday. I hope you guys have a fabulous, fun, and relaxing weekend planned out ahead of you guys. Go see some great movies. Check out Joker. Maybe you'll love it like me. Maybe you'll be a little bit underwhelmed by it like some other people. Either way, I think it's a movie experience you're going to want to go out and try for yourself. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.